My name is Tori Hilton. I'm 23 years old. Your brother has real potential. You should learn a trade, my father said, while signing away $175,000 that had my name on it, money my grandparents had saved since the day I was born. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a single plate across that kitchen. I picked up my backpack, walked out the front door with $340 to my name, and I never looked back. That was 5 years ago. Last Tuesday, my parents walked into my office on the 14th floor of a building in downtown Hartford. My mother's knees buckled. But not because of the corner office, not because of the 40 employees. It was the way I looked at her, the way you look at a stranger who wandered into the wrong room. But to understand what happened in that office, you need to know what happened at a kitchen table in Glastonbury, Connecticut 5 years before, and the one piece of paper my father never knew existed. Let me take you back to March of 2020, the week everything changed. I grew up in a colonial 2-story on Hollister Way in Glastonbury, Connecticut. White shutters, a wraparound porch, a mailbox my father repainted every spring because appearances mattered more than anything in the Hilton household. From the outside, we looked like a catalog family. From the inside, we operated like a small dictatorship. And my father, Gerald Hilton, was the one holding the gavel. Dad was a regional manager for an insurance company in Hartford. 40-minute commute, briefcase, tie clip, firm handshake. He controlled every dollar that moved through our house. My mother, Diane, didn't have a credit card in her own name until she was 46 years old. That should tell you everything. The rules were never written down, but they didn't have to be. My brother Marcus, 3 years older, 6 inches taller, and the undisputed center of my father's universe, got the new laptop every fall, got driven to travel baseball tournaments in 3 states, got his own room when I was moved into the half-finished attic bedroom at 12 because Marcus needed space to focus. I got the dishes, the laundry, the quiet expectation to help Mom keep the house running while the men chased bigger things. I was good at drawing, really good. My art teacher, Mrs. Calloway, once told me I had the kind of spatial awareness that architecture firms recruit for. I brought home a portfolio and a letter from her recommending a summer program at RISD. Dad glanced at it for maybe 4 seconds. Drawing pictures isn't a career, Tori. It's a hobby. He set it on the counter and never mentioned it again. But the college fund? That was supposed to be different. My grandparents on my mom's side had started 2 UTMA accounts the year each of us was born. One for Marcus, one for me. $175,000 each, built up over 18 years of contributions and compound interest. My father announced it at Thanksgiving when I was 15, stood right at the head of the table, wine glass in hand, like he was giving a quarterly earnings report. Both of my kids have a full ride waiting for them, he said. $175 each. That's their future, and nobody touches it. The whole table clapped. Aunt Helen, Uncle Ray, the cousins, everyone. I remember looking at the wall in the living room afterward. Every single frame was Marcus. His Little League trophy, his Honor Society certificate, his homecoming photo. I had exactly one picture on that wall, tucked in the corner by the thermostat, a family Christmas photo from 2011 where half my face was blocked by my dad's shoulder. I remember thinking, even then, the money is the only thing that's actually equal. I was wrong. If there was one person in my life who made me feel like I wasn't invisible, it was my grandmother Eleanor. She'd been a seamstress for 40 years, ran a small alterations shop out of her garage in Wethersfield, until her hands got too stiff to hold the needle straight. She had this way of looking at you while you talked, like you were the only broadcast on television. No one else in my family did that. Not for me, anyway. Grandma Eleanor was the one who taught me to sketch. Not art school sketch, the practical kind. She'd lay a pattern on her cutting table and I'd trace it freehand while she pinned. "Your hands in your head, Tori," she used to say. "Nobody can repossess those." She died the spring I turned 16. Ovarian cancer, fast and merciless. My father didn't go to the funeral. Said he had a conflict, which in Gerald Hilton language meant he didn't think his wife's mother warranted a personal day. My mother stood at the casket alone. I stood next to her. Marcus didn't come either. He was at a fraternity mixer. A week before she passed, Grandma Eleanor pulled me close in her hospital room. Her voice was barely there, but her grip was iron. She said, "I put something aside for you. Not much, but it's yours. No one else's. A man named Richard Keene will find you when you're ready." I thought she was talking about jewelry, or maybe a quilt she'd been working on. I was 16. I didn't know what a trust was. After the funeral, I found a small wooden box she'd left for me. Inside was her sewing kit, a measuring tape worn soft at the edges, and a folded piece of paper with a name and phone number. Richard Keene, Esquire. I tucked that paper into my wallet, behind my school ID, and I didn't think about it again, not for 2 years. Marcus came home from college the fall of my senior year, like a man who'd just discovered religion, except his gospel was money and his prophet was himself. He'd been at UConn for 3 years by then. His GPA was somewhere in the neighborhood of a 2.3, which I only knew because I'd overheard him arguing with the registrar's office over the phone one night. But to hear him tell it at the dinner table, he was networking, building a personal brand, and laying the groundwork for something big. My father ate it up like communion. One Saturday morning in early March, Marcus showed up at the house wearing a blazer I'd never seen before. Banana Republic, price tag still dangling from the inside seam, like he wanted someone to notice. He had a printout in a plastic binder, maybe 8 pages, double-spaced. He called it his business plan. I was in the kitchen washing the breakfast dishes when he sat down across from Dad at the table and started his pitch. He needed an MBA, he said. Top-tier program. Then seed capital for a startup after that. Something in digital consulting, whatever that meant. He'd done the numbers, he said. Total investment needed, roughly $175,000. I turned off the faucet. "Dad," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair with his ankle on his knee. "Let's be real. You've got 2 education funds sitting there. I need one. And Tori, what's she going to do with it? She draws pictures." He said it the way you'd describe a child's hobby. Not cruel exactly, just dismissive. Like I wasn't even in the room. Like I wasn't 12 feet away with dishwater running down my forearms. And my father, the man who'd stood at Thanksgiving and told the whole family each kid had $175,000 waiting, looked at Marcus's plastic binder business plan, nodded slowly and said, "You might be onto something." He didn't look at me, not once. They waited a whole week to tell me, though I suspect that had more to do with paperwork than courtesy. It was a Sunday morning. The kitchen smelled like coffee and toast, and the light came through the window over the sink in that flat, honest way that makes everything look a little too real. My father was sitting at the head of the table. Marcus was next to him, legs crossed, sipping from one of those oversized ceramic mugs Dad had bought from Restoration Hardware. $28 for a coffee cup, but God forbid I ask for a $10 set of colored pencils. "Sit down, Tori," my father said. I sat. He didn't ease into it. Gerald Hilton never eased into anything. "I've made a decision about the education accounts. Your brother needs the capital for his MBA. It's a real opportunity, and I'm not going to let it slip. I'm consolidating both funds under his name." Both funds. All $175,000. "Your brother has real potential," he continued, straightening a napkin like he was closing a business deal. "You should learn a trade. There's good money in it. Nothing wrong with that." I looked at my mother. Diane Hilton was standing by the sink, both hands on the edge of the counter, her back half turned. She was staring at the floor. Not at me. Not at Dad. At the tile, like she was trying to memorize the grout pattern. "Mom?" Nothing. Not a word. Not a glance. Just the sound of the refrigerator humming and my brother slurping coffee like this was any other Sunday. "Your mother agrees," my father said. And something between my mother and me died right there on that kitchen tile. No funeral. No flowers. Just silence. And the smell of burnt toast. I looked at my father. I looked at Marcus. And I said one word. "Okay." Then I pushed back my chair, stood up, and walked upstairs. That one word cost me $175,000. But what I did over the next 48 hours would be worth a great deal more. I didn't leave that night. I know that's what people expect. The dramatic exit, the slammed door, the car peeling out of the driveway while the soundtrack swells. That's not what happened. What happened was math. I had 2 final exams left. 2 days. If I walked out before graduation, I'd lose the only credential I had, a high school diploma. And without that, I wouldn't even qualify for community college admissions. So I sat in my attic bedroom and did the most practical thing I'd ever done. I opened my laptop, searched for room rentals in New Haven, and made a list. Monday, a P English exam. Aced it. Tuesday, a P art history. The easiest 3 hours of my life. I walked across the gym stage Wednesday afternoon in a navy cap and gown, shook the principal's hand, and took my diploma. No one from my family was in the audience. Gerald and Diane were at Marcus's college across the state. Some end-of-year event, a reception for graduating seniors. Marcus didn't even graduate that semester, but my parents didn't know that yet. I walked out the gymnasium doors into the June sun, and I didn't go home. I'd already packed the night before. 1 backpack, 3 changes of clothes, my laptop, a phone charger, Grandma Eleanor's wooden sewing box, and the folded paper with Richard Keene's number still tucked in my wallet. That was everything. My entire net worth, $340 in a savings account linked to a debit card with a cracked screen protector. I left a note on the kitchen table, the same oak table where my grandmother used to teach me to trace patterns, and where my father had signed away my future. I'm leaving. Please don't look for me. You already made your choice. I called an Uber, got in, watched the white shutters of Hollister Way disappear through the rear window. $340. A high school diploma. A dead grandmother's sewing box. And a phone number I'd never dialed. It wasn't much, but it was mine. New Haven in the summer is loud, humid, and completely indifferent to your problems, which, if you're 18 and running on adrenaline and spite, is exactly what you need. I found a room in a 3-bedroom apartment on Wally Avenue, $700 a month, shared bathroom, 2 roommates I'd never met. One was a nursing student named Bridget who worked overnights. The other was a guy named Darnell who played bass in a cover band and was never awake before noon. Nobody asked me why I was there. Nobody asked about my family. I liked that. I got a barista job at a coffee shop on Chapel Street within the first week. Minimum wage plus tips. I enrolled at Gateway Community College for the fall, graphic design program. The tuition was manageable, barely, if I picked up extra shifts. It was 2 weeks before my father called. Not to check on me, not to ask where I was sleeping, to scold me. His voicemail, because I didn't pick up, went like this. You're being dramatic, Tori. This is exactly the kind of behavior I'm talking about. Come home and we'll look into a cosmetology program, something realistic. He left 3 more messages that month, each one shorter than the last, each one angrier. My mother called once late at night. She was whispering, which meant Dad was in the next room. Tori, sweetheart, I'm worried about you. Your father, he just wants what's best. Please come home. We can figure this out. Figure what out, Mom? He gave away my money. A pause. Then, your father knows best, honey. Just come home. I hung up. And I understood, with a clarity that felt like cold water, that my mother was never going to choose me. Not because she didn't love me, but because she'd spent 25 years letting Gerald Hilton make every decision in her life, and she didn't know how to stop. That was the night I deleted home from my contacts. Meanwhile, Marcus texted the family group chat, the one I hadn't left yet. A single message with a laughing emoji. Guess the artist couldn't handle the real world. I screenshot it, muted the chat, and went back to studying. On his Instagram that same week, a rooftop bar in Manhattan, a bottle of something expensive, the caption, MBA Life, paid for, every cent of it, with my $175,000. I closed the app and opened my textbook. 3 months in, I was running on 4 hours of sleep, black coffee, and a stubbornness I'd inherited from a woman who hemmed wedding dresses in a garage until her knuckles swelled shut. I was sitting on my bed one night, the bottom bunk, because Bridget had claimed the top before I moved in, going through my bag for a pen, when my hand brushed the wooden box. Grandma Eleanor's sewing kit. I opened it the way you open something sacred, slow, careful, already knowing it's going to hurt. the measuring tape, the needles in their little felt case, and underneath, the folded paper. Richard Keene, Esquire. A phone number with a Wethersfield area code. I'd been carrying it for 2 years. I'd never called. It had always felt like something for later, for some vague future emergency I couldn't picture. But sitting on that bunk bed, with $214 left in my account and a tuition bill due in 6 weeks, I realized this was the emergency. I called the next morning. Richard Keene answered on the second ring. His voice was calm and unhurried, the kind of voice you develop after 40 years of reading legal documents to grieving families. He said he'd been trying to reach me. He'd mailed 2 letters to the house in Glastonbury over the past 2 years. I never got them, I said, a long pause on his end. I see. We both understood what that meant. Gerald had intercepted them. Richard asked me to come to his office in Wethersfield. I took 2 buses to get there. It was a small practice, just him and a paralegal, in a brick building with law books on every surface and a brass lamp on his desk that looked older than I was. He sat me down and explained what my grandmother had done. Eleanor had set up a revocable trust 4 years before she died. $12,000 funded from her personal savings. The sole beneficiary was me, Victoria Eleanor Hilton, and the trust was structured to transfer when I turned 18 and made contact with the trustee. Richard was that trustee. She told me you'd call eventually, he said. She just wasn't sure when. He slid a check across the desk. $12,000. And beside it, a copy of the trust document with my grandmother's signature at the bottom, thin, shaky, but deliberate. Every letter intentional. I held that piece of paper, and for the first time since I'd left Glastonbury, I cried. Not because of the money, because someone had planned for me. Someone had sat down with a lawyer and said, "This is for Tori, and nobody else gets to touch it." But Richard wasn't done. "There's something else you should know," he said. He opened a folder. "Your UTMA account, the $175,000. I took the liberty of requesting the transaction records. As beneficiary, you're entitled to them." He turned the folder toward me. Inside was a printout, an email from Gerald J. Hilton to the bank, dated March 14th, instructing a full withdrawal and transfer of the custodial funds to a new account in Marcus Hilton's name. The email was 4 sentences long. No mention of my education,